Welcome to the SBP podcast by S. Botello Productions. I'm Susy Botello. Mobile film and video is our focus, and innovation is what drives us. My passion for storytelling and technology brings me to connect my experience in video and film to storytelling for everyone using mobile phones. Hey everybody, we're coming to you from San Diego, but we're going down under to Perth, Australia. We're going to talk to Brian Hennings. His film Express was one of the films we featured in our film festival last April. So let's get started and let's talk to Brian. So Brian, thanks for agreeing to spend some time with us to talk about mobile filmmaking.
No problems.
Yeah, well, Brian is talking to us from Perth in Australia today. And one thing I wanted to talk about really quick is, you traveled halfway around the world last April to participate in our film festival. And so I wanted to first off, I just wanted to thank you again for doing that. That's pretty awesome.
Hey, no problems. It was a great time over there.
So in order to introduce you to our listeners, who are about ready to really meet you now, share share with everyone a little bit about your background in video and filmmaking before you decided to make films with smartphones.
Okay. So I guess for me, I was a little bit of a late entrant into the filmmaking game. I kind of always loved film and television and stuff like that, but I kind of went off and did the real life kind of stuff first and got a job and wound up 20 years later still doing that same job and kind of not really enjoying it. And I got to a stage in my life where I started thinking a little bit about what I really wanted to do, before time runs out inevitably. And I always did a little bit of writing, so I got a little bit more into that. And then I was writing a story, and it kind of struck me that it felt more like a film. And then I started looking at film writing as an outlet. Got more into that, and I guess over time realized that there's not a whole lot of people that are sitting around waiting to make other people's films for them. So then I started getting into the production side of things. So with a great group of people, I started making some short films. We started off doing using DSLRs and things like that. Certainly at the budget end of the filmmaking spectrum. And we did some good work. We did some short films there. We did a web series that was quite well accepted. And then got to the stage where we were looking for our next project. And
what if you don't mind, what part did you play in these films? Were you directing and were you writing and directing, or what part did you play?
I was writing and producing most of the time. So with the short films and the web series and stuff like that, it tended to be I would write it and produce it, and we had Sean Helen, who was a great guy that I got to know locally, and turned out lived 2 streets away from me after we'd worked together for a little while. We worked together. He was a director who's gone on to do some great things over in Melbourne in Australia. And Lydia Brisbane, who directed the film that we lodged into your festival, was also collaborating with us as a writer and producer and doing a lot of the behind the scenes stuff for us. And so then over time, like I said, we got to the stage where we were looking for the next project. We were looking for something a little bit different. We came up with the idea of the film Express that we entered into the festival. And at the same time, I'd been reading a lot about smartphone film festivals and smartphone filmmaking. And it kind of lent itself to the project that we were doing. So
Express was your very first mobile film then?
Yes, yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
wow.
We basically looked at it. I mean, we had a great group of people who are experienced filmmakers. And luckily enough, we had James Corker, who was our cinematographer on a lot of the stuff that we've done previously. And I managed to twist his arm and convince him that smartphones would be a good challenge for him. And he came on board with that and really accepted the challenges of working with that format. And we very quickly learnt how to get the best out of the camera. I mean, we did a lot of test shoots before we shot this to make sure that we were getting good footage out of it. We tested different smartphones to see what was going to work best for us. And through an association or a relationship we have with a cinema here, we were able to project our test footage onto a big screen to see how it would work blown up rather than looking at it on a smartphone
well, that's a
on a computer.
privilege. That's great. Not everybody gets that opportunity.
Yeah, and it was kind of weird for them too to have us walk in there and go, this is what we're trying to do, and it's really kind of interesting. This smartphone game is, there's a lot of people in the industry that have had a lot of experience that have just never turned their mind to using smartphones, and they're kind of surprised by what you can get out of it and what you can do. So. It's been a very short, compact journey from starting to write films to becoming a smartphone filmmaker, but it's been a fun one.
Did you I did notice one thing about Express, and that is that it's set in an outdoor train station with very rich colors, and the lighting was beautiful as well. And so I was wondering, did you do color grading in post production? How were you able to achieve that with your phone footage?
Happy accident in a way. The lighting there was just really nice. It just so happened to be a really cinematic kind of shot. We shot it on a Samsung Galaxy S7, which has got brilliant nighttime capabilities. That's one thing that we found when we were testing it, was that kind of had the best ability to shoot in darker things. And then we did use a young guy called Matthew Gardner to do some color grading in post. And mostly that was about matching shots to make sure that we were getting a consistent look across the film. But I have to give props to our local train station makers for giving us such nice lighting to work with in the first place.
Well, actually, the quality of your production was really amazing. I'm actually surprised that was your first film, to be honest with you, because it's a trial and error thing. And I know that you did some test footage and things like that, but sometimes working with actors, I don't know how many times you got to test things before you did a full run on your film production.
We probably went down there about 2 or 3 times just to test different stuff out, test different times of the night, and to get a feel of how the station was going to be and how things move around the station, because we also had the thing of needing to have a station look mostly deserted, but it's also a working train station that we weren't closing down just for the shot. So we had to work out how best to shoot things to make sure that we weren't getting other people in our shots and things like that.
And then there was also, obviously it was cinematic because you had some great shots. The cinematography and everything was really great, and also it was so stable. The image was so stable. What did you use for that?
We primarily used a tripod. So most of it was shot on a tripod. We used a special rig that our cinematographer had to get the opening shot, which was kind of a mobile shot, and that worked out really well for us. And then there was a little bit of handheld there for some of the shots. We would have liked to have had a stabilizer rig or something like that, which would have allowed us to be a little bit more mobile. But being our first shot, we hadn't invested in that type of equipment to work with. But I still, we were really lucky to work again with James Corker. He's a great cinematographer based in Perth, and he does what he needs to do to get the shots, and he does it really, really well.
Well, yeah, the first films ever made. I mean, remember those not that we were alive back then, but those cameras were huge. There was no such thing as a handheld shot,
Yeah.
there were tripods and cranes and all that. I wanted to also ask you a little bit about the sound on there because I don't think you captured the sound directly on the phone, did you? Or
No, no. All of the sound in the film was done in post. So the train station that we're working at is in the middle of a highway. So it runs down the center of a highway, and we've got 6 lanes of traffic, either on the sides of it, and it would have been impossible to get good quality sound at that time. So that was part of the way that we set this shoot up was the project was written so that we didn't have to get sound recorded. There's no dialogue that was captured on camera. It was all done in voiceover, so we could go to a really nice studio and capture the audio later on. And then we had Andrea Colbert, who was doing our sound production for us, and she went out and between capturing some stuff while she'd go out and record sound separately and use some of the files that she had from previous shoots to be able to build up the soundscape to actually make it work. I was watching the film again yesterday and marveled at the way that she put car sounds that happen to pass at the same time as the cars in the background and things like that. And that blows me away as a filmmaker that we've got people that do go to that level of detail to help sell the story that we're trying to sell.
They say the devil is in the details, but I do call it movie magic right there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have the patience to do that kind of stuff. I look at it and, I wouldn't even think about what's going on in the background. And, going off, I've gone to seminars on sound design and things like that. And constantly amazes me when you hear production, what they captured on set and then what the final version is. There's so many talented people that are working in the industry to sell the vision of the director and the writer and the producer. So it's so wonderful to be working with people like that.
Yeah, it's almost one of the reasons why you do need a team, to create the greatest films, I think, because everybody is so good at playing their individual parts. And, it's not just about patience, it's about the talents and the skills, but yeah, the patience too. When you're good at something and you're very passionate about that one particular task, you tend to be really good at it and more patient, and you're willing to do it over and over again until it comes out beautiful. And so everybody in your crew, in your team kudos to everybody. They were fantastic. And again, it's like unbelievable that was your first film because it came out so well. It was so cinematic and the production value was so great on there as well. But actually, there's this other thing, after hundreds of films that I go through that I've watched and dealt with, through my film festival on its own even. The one thing I've noticed is that there's always a story behind each film, something that brings on the idea for a film. And your film had a message. And I was wondering if you could share with everybody what that message was. and the idea.
I, yeah, the I guess the basic message behind the film is, that we as a society have become more and more disconnected and more insular. We're very happy talking to each other through social media and through through our smartphones, and we need to make sure that we engage with each other and we notice each other. So hopefully, most of you listeners will have seen the film, but for those that haven't, the basic story behind it is that a woman gets off a train on a deserted platform and notices a guy standing there, and there's something about the guy that she notices, but she doesn't quite know what it is. Um, and initially, she thinks it might be danger for her, and it turns out to be something else, and that the guy himself really needed someone there for him at the time. Um, and it deals a little bit with also the regret that people have after things happen, when they realize that they could have taken a different approach to the situation. And the reality of this is actually a story that has sat strongly with me, because it's my story. In real life, I was the woman on the train. Obviously, I wasn't the woman, but I was the person on the train. Um, I was coming home from work. I got off the train and I noticed a guy standing on the platform, and there was something about him that struck me, and I wasn't sure what it was. And I did what everyone else on that platform did, which was walk away. And kind of thought about it on the drive home and thought that this guy standing there, that seemed a bit unusual. And more to the point, I don't know why it was that I noticed him, or what it was about him that I noticed. And then not long after I got home, I heard that something tragic had happened at the train station, and I can only believe that this was, the guy that I noticed. And then, of course, I wondered whether that was what I noticed, and whether, had I done something about that, whether the outcome would have been very different. And that kind of has stuck with me after that, and that idea that sometimes our internal alarm goes off, and we either take action on that or we don't, and maybe we as a society need to pay a little bit more attention to that, and need to make sure that people are getting those actual real human connections with people, because sometimes just asking someone whether they're okay could be the difference between them being okay or them not being okay. So it was, it's a very personal film. We changed it a little bit from what really happened, but the idea behind it really is about making sure that we talk to each other.
Yeah, actually, I was on one of the social media networks that I go to every day. I hit like maybe six of them. And there was one, I think it was maybe 2 months ago, where there was a hashtag. And, I just watched your film again today. And so that last line in your film, which is the last thing you just said, to ask somebody, "Are you okay?" Right? There was that hashtag on that platform, and somebody shared a story, and they were from Australia, actually. And they were
Mm-hmm.
giving the meaning to that hashtag being some sort of a movement. Are you okay? To encourage people to ask that instead of just "How are you doing?" Which is more of a greeting, right?
Yeah.
Most people don't really answer that honestly, or really think when someone, especially here in the United States, I don't know how common that is there, but in the United States, everywhere you go, people say, "Hey, how you doing?" But they don't really they don't expect you to answer that. They don't really mean to know how you're really doing. But when they ask, "Are you okay?" it has a different tone to that. And I wanted to know if you were aware of that movement or cause or whatever it is that it's called or referred to as, because when I heard that at the end of your film, I connected that with that, and because you're Australian too, I thought maybe that you had heard about this.
Yeah, it's actually quite a big thing in Australia. We have a day, a designated day of the year that's Are You OK Day, and the idea behind it is not that that's the only time of the year that you ask that question, but as a reminder that it's okay to ask people if they're okay, and it's okay for people not to be okay, and to talk about that because we have we live in a society where with some of these social media platforms, people have to present this idealized version of what their life is, and that everything is great, and that they've just eaten the best meal they've ever eaten, and they're having the funnest day they've ever had, and that can weigh on people. You can have some people that get weighed down under the burden of either keeping up that pretense or seeing other people that are living these seemingly perfect lives when they're not. So through several of the organisations over here that do some great work with mental health issues, they did come up with the Are You OK Day initiative. And it really is something that I think again as a society we need to talk about more. We need to like you said in the US it's they have say in Australia we say how you going, which is kind of the same thing. It's just that it's a greeting and people don't really want to hear how you're going. So we do need to sit down every now and again and with people that we love and care for, we do need to sometimes have those conversations and make sure that people feel comfortable in talking about things that might not be going okay, and making sure people feel comfortable in getting the help that they need to deal with their issues, because we had a mental health based film that made it into a festival. There was coincidentally another Australian film that was dealing with a very similar topic. And I think it really does come down to this thing of we need to be able to bring this stuff to the surface, and deal with it. Otherwise, it will continue to be an issue.
Well, we're all connected, and I think that the feeling that you're talking about, which we all experience, that we're just not able to point, exactly to what it means each time. Sometimes you feel something and you don't know what it is, so we have this fear of, well, we could be wrong, and then that ends up being the bad guy or something like that, right? But I
Yeah,
think that feeling is more of a clue that we are connected, and those feelings are the line of connection between each other, and they're very necessary for us to survive as a society, humanity, something like that. You know.
yeah, yeah. I think the part of the problem is that in so much of our media now we focus on the negative stuff. You watch the news every night, and it talks about all the bad things that have happened in the world, and it gives us that impression that this is what happens all the time. But
Yeah. Well, it's
there's
like an
middle.
extreme. We're either expressing everything is fantastic and wonderful and adventure and look at me, look at us, or we're going all the way down to the other side where it's very negative. So it's either very
Yeah,
positive or very negative. Um,
yeah.
you know.
I think we do need to come back to that that point of view that the vast majority of people are kind of okay. They're nice people. They're just like us. And when we're sitting in a waiting room or sitting on a train or whatever we're doing, having those moments of connection where maybe that connection can be just looking across the train carriage and making eye contact with someone, um, rather than sitting engrossed in our phone the whole time or in a book or whatever those things are. And it's that moment of connection, which is one of the things that I really love about filmmaking, is that we can have that moment of connection across half a world.
Yeah.
We can send a film across to people like yourself, and it's not face to face, but it's that moment of connection where we're both in that same moment at that same time. And I really hope that this is something that people would like to do more of.
Well, yeah, that's the power of storytelling. That's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this whole concept of making movies with mobile phones, because for a long time, the storytellers, I mean, the best medium for storytelling is filmmaking. It grabs you from every sense of you, and it brings you inside a story in a way that no other medium can do. And filmmaking now, that power is has just been given to everybody in the world through the camera on their phone. So everybody
Yeah.
has one, so everybody has that power. And then the social, not so much social media, but online, the online platform gives you that vehicle to connect and drive those stories all the way around the world to everyone, and to share messages like the story that you shared, from way down under to San Diego. It was just fantastic. And I'm wondering if you have another story that you're about ready to make a film about.
No end of stories. That's always the problem. Is you kind of you always thinking about the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So we've got a lot of things. Certainly I've got a lot of things that I'd like to make. It's just that challenge of getting everything ready to go, doing the idea justice, which is the biggest thing for me. Is when you come up with the story, that's one of the things that I was so happy about with the Express was we came up with the idea, we executed it as best as we could, and we were happy with the outcome of that. And I think we made a film that was at least worthy of people's 3 minutes 10 or whatever it was, to sit down for that moment and just watch that story. And I think you're spot on right with the idea about smartphone filmmaking. We had a moderately sized team working on this, but you can just as easily tell a story with a much smaller team. It's entirely possible for people to make a film with just one person, using smartphone technology. So I'm kind of excited. When I came across to the festival, we had the young filmmaker Miranda, who I can't remember how old she was, but she was young.
Yeah, she was
And she
11 years old.
11 years old, yeah, and she was able to conceive and execute a film using a smartphone. And when you have someone that young being involved in it, it's interesting on two levels, because one is you're getting that perspective that historically you wouldn't have got. Like you go back to the 1950s or something like that, or even the 60s or 70s. You wouldn't have had an 11-year-old making films. They wouldn't have had the ability to do that, or certainly not widely.
Right.
And then 80s, when you started getting the VHS video revolution, and you did start getting younger filmmakers, but how did they share it? And now you've got the ability for someone like Miranda to make a film, enter it into a competition like yours, and have it seen by a large number of people. It's a massive shift in the way that filmmaking has evolved, and it's exciting to be able to do this. And the other thing that I'm really excited about is seeing where Miranda progresses to from here, because as an 11-year-old, what type of films is she going to be making when she's 13 or 15 or 17, and hopefully through the rest of her life, because this is the type of voice that we need in the industry. I'm an old white guy. There's a lot of us around, and this makes it achievable for people who may not have normally got the opportunity to make films
Yeah,
to
there's,
become part of the process.
it was, as I was so happy in this year's film festival to be able to roll out the red carpet and have the diversity in the people that were standing there, the people in the Q&A. I mean, of course, we had an 82-year-old woman, Mickey Harrison. And then we also had Miranda Mullings, who was 11 years old. Her father, Anthony de la Cruz, was also there. And you, Aris, Claudino, Maite, everyone that was there from different parts of the world, and a few from San Diego. But the diversity in where everyone was coming from, that was for me, it was my dream come true, because that's what I envision with the mobile filmmaking, that everybody who has a phone can do it, and so then everybody does, and I hope you're right that the younger generation, and really, they're already doing this. They're already on YouTube, they're making little videos and things like that. But I think it was a really neat experience, like, also an impact that it made on you, because here you were sharing the stage with an 11-year-old. You're more of a professional, but for her it was just the beginning. Am I right about that?
I hesitate to call myself a professional, because we're all learning as we're going along. But I wish I was in the game at 11. It would have been quite the opportunity. And I hope that Miranda serves as a role model for people that want to start evolving into the film industry. And hopefully there's going to be people out there that will see the work that she's doing, and the success that she's having through getting selected into film festivals, to use that as maybe my film is better than just something that I'm going to put on YouTube, and my family and friends are going to watch it. Maybe they're telling stories that should be shared with bigger audiences. It is one of the things that is quite hard in this day, because while it's easier to make films, there's so many films out there. It's hard to break through the noise of everything that's on there. There's some insane statistics about how many hours of footage is uploaded to YouTube every day, and trying to make someone take notice of your film when it's very easy to watch a 15-second cat video and laugh, or watch someone wearing a Chewbacca mask or something like
Right.
that. It's how do you break through that? And I think that's where there's a lot of credit has to go to you, because you're one of those people that are standing up and saying, this is important. This is it's a way of telling stories. It's just another avenue for filmmakers to make good quality films and get them out there for people to see. So and the reality is that for people like us who went into your festival, the fact that we were selected in gives us that little bit of credibility when we're showing our films to other people. It makes it stand out that little bit more. So, I have so much admiration for the work that you're doing over there to help filmmakers get their message out there.
Oh, thank you very much. That means a lot to me, to hear that. And you're exactly right. It is about the stories, because that's what a lot of those videos are lacking, is the beginning, the middle, and the end. They're just little tidbits, that you see on YouTube. And just because you can easily upload the film, you videotape any, videotape. Now that goes back to my old VHS days. um, but when you're recording anything, yeah, and because you just can or just do, it's so easy to do. And then it's so easy to just say, well, just upload it to my YouTube account on my, on the app right here on the phone. And everybody's hoping for the video to go viral, which is funny when it does, because it's always unexpected, right? Um, but
That's it.
but yeah, the true quality, I think, and what I'm pushing for is more on the storytelling. And when it comes to kids and young people, the ability to do that becomes an asset for them later in life, because storytelling is communication. It's the best communication tool that we have is storytelling, and that's how we connect. That's there's so much about industries right now. You hear about it in marketing and things like that, in business. What's your brand? What's your story? Everything is a story. And your story had such an impact, and it was shared in 3 minutes, just a little over 3 minutes. And then you have other stories that, Lord of the Rings, what was it, like 3:23, and meaning 3 hours and 20 minutes or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
So it's, I love the whole concept of storytelling, because, there's really no limit to them in many ways, and the messages that are conceived by it. And like yours, you might save, the day basically with a story for somebody.
It I came at this game as a writer first and foremost. So I'm a big believer in story, and we've all of us have seen those films that are very artistically shot, but you kind of get to the end of it and you're kind of like, I'm not really sure what I saw there. It looked great, but what actually happened? Um, so I'm a big believer in the fact that you need a story, and even in a 3 minute film, you still need that beginning, middle, and end, and and try to tell stories that work within the format that you're trying to do. Like you're right, the Lord of the Rings were, if you watch them all back to back, it's kind of like you'll be back in a week or something like that. But they're telling a big story, so they need that amount of time. Whereas with Express, the part of the idea behind it was that the story revolves around a fleeting moment between two people on a train station that has an ongoing impact for those characters. And we wanted to build the story the same way, where we were telling a story that happened in a fleeting moment. Compared to a lot of films, it's a 3 minute long story that hopefully sits with people for a long time afterwards. So we were using the format of the film to mimic the way that the story goes. So like I don't know whether I'm just feeding my own artistic fantasies there, but that's kind of what we're hoping, is that at least some people would recognize that the way that the film works is the way that life works as well.
And it's not just about one film festival, by the way, because you've submitted this film. How many festivals have you submitted the film to that have accepted it, at least?
We got into 4 festivals overall, which was
Cool.
way better than we were hoping for. We were happy if it got selected into one, and we ended up getting into 4 festivals. We submitted to a few more. It is kind of interesting as well because we did target which ones we were going for,
Yeah.
and that meant that we were targeting a lot of smartphone film festivals around the world. But it's interesting to see the way that it was accepted. Just generally, even with the festivals that we didn't get into, we got some really good feedback on the film. So, we're hoping that we can continue making good films, and we'd certainly love to get into more festivals in the future.
Well, I would love for you to be a part of another one of our film festivals, and have you come back to San Diego, enjoy our weather again. Even though I know where you live in Perth, you have awesome weather, and you were telling me how similar it is to San Diego too.
Yeah. So it was very weird going there because it felt a lot like home, because it's the accent was slightly different. That was about it. But the weather is very similar. The attitude of the people is very similar. Certainly it's on my radar to get back over there at some stage. So we just need to make a film that's worthy of being selected.
Yeah, well, and you know what? Maybe next time you're here, you can make a film while you're here too, because it's so easy to bring that camera in your pocket while you're on the way, right?
Yeah, that thought has crossed my mind.
Well, okay. Hey, everybody, it's shout out time. This is a great little game that I've put together here for the podcast. And so one of the fun parts of it, of this podcast, is where our guest, which is you, has the opportunity to give a shout out to some people that you'd like to give a shout out to. And you have 20 seconds to do it. Are you ready to play the game?
Oh yeah, I can do that.
Awesome. Okay, let me put the timer. Okay, so you're ready and you're
Yep.
set
Yep.
and go.
I've got to say a big thanks to Sean Helland, who was my production partner for a long time. He got me into this game. Lydia Brisby, my partner in making films. The actors that we had, the brilliant Sarah Harris and Nicholas Donato. We've been talking about a lot of the other people, but I do need to also mention Jamie Murgatroyd, who did the music for Express, which was wonderful.
Time's up.
Dang it. No,
I'm like trying to.
I mean, I could take a lot longer than 20 seconds to thank all the people that we need to thank and give shout outs to everyone that I'd like to give shout outs to. The one person that I probably should add in, if you can give me another couple of seconds, is my wonderful wife, Sharon.
I'll let you cheat.
Because two reasons. One is she is wonderful and she supports me in everything that I want to do with this film game, and she will listen to this. So if I don't say that, she'll also not be happy. So hey, Sharon, thanks.
Awesome. Great. Hey, is there anything else that you would like to share with us in the next few minutes here?
Yeah, I guess the one thing, because this is an audience that spans the globe, and and people like yourself in the US and everywhere else.
Let me share this with you, okay? So we just started this podcast, right? Just a few days ago. And you're not going to believe it. Actually, I'm going to tell you the countries that I just looked at that it spans around so far. So it's the United States, Spain, Australia, Switzerland, the Philippines, India, Chile, and Canada. So go for it. Let's see what else.
We need to get some New Zealand in there too. Go on.
Yeah.
I'll work on that for the main thing that I want to say is that to people that may not have been exposed to it is, there's some great stuff being made in Australia. both on the budget side of things, like the stuff that I do, and a little bit higher budget, but also in the TV world and things like that. There's some really great productions that are coming out of Australia that are going around the world, but may not be things that people are looking at. And like there's brilliant shows coming out of Australia, like Rosehaven, which is showing in the States on Sundance. There's a show called Dreamland, which is on Netflix. That they're both comedies that are really worth your view. There's other stuff coming out of Australia, like The Code, The Principal, Glitch, that are available on various platforms in various countries. That I hope people take the time to look at, because it's very easy for people to neglect stuff that's coming from a country other than their own, and particularly in the US is because so much great stuff comes out of the US that it's hard to get people to come through or to break through that noise. But you've got some great stuff like there is coming out of other countries as well. But there's some really great Australian stuff that's out there that's being made, and sometimes being remade for the American audiences. So if there's one other thing that I can just say to people who might be listening to this is, seek out diverse productions, seek out things that tell you stories from other parts of the world, because just in the same way that we as individuals need to reach out to each other and make those connections, we as countries need to reach out to each other and make those connections, and kind of understand that little bit more about the what makes us tick. If we all listen to each other and talk a little bit more, like a lot of the problems that we face can be solved, I think.
Yeah, I know you can't see me here, but just about everything you've been saying, it's deep stuff, but there's so much truth to it, and I'm just sitting here nodding to everything. Yes, 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 and I've got a big smile on my face too, because, I can tell, even when we met at the film festival, you and I got to speak. I got to speak actually with all the filmmakers that were there, but we think alike. And I noticed that I love filmmakers. I've always loved filmmakers a lot. It's part of the reason why my heart is in this is to give filmmakers and filmmakers to be, and the dreaming filmmakers, a platform, and to give them, I hope I did a good job at making everyone there feel like a star, because they really were at the center of this whole, I know people call it a movement, a revolution. I call it more of an evolution of filmmaking. We're evolving, and we're, giving this storytelling platform through film to the whole world.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's listening to this podcast who wants to make a film, or is thinking about making a film, or has a film and don't know, that they've made on a smartphone, they're not sure what to do with it.
Yeah.
All I can say is, like, enter it. The best case scenario is you get selected in. The worst case scenario is that you don't.
Yeah.
And if you get selected in, travel, get over to San Diego. It was one of the best experiences of my filmmaking life, is to come into San Diego, to meet yourself, to talk to the other filmmakers, and to share our experience, and to share the tips that we have. You're talking about Anthony before, and he, in a 5-minute conversation, he told me exactly how to do something that I was wondering how to do, and that type of stuff, and making those connections with people in various places around the globe that you can bounce ideas off, you can maybe one day collaborate with on something. It's again, it's just that wonderful opportunity that you've presented to filmmakers to make films in a way that can tell great stories, that can be cinematic, can connect with other people, and giving them a platform to put that forward.
Yeah, and you guys even connected with the audience, the attendees who became like friends, of ours too. It was pretty cool,
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
I'm,
Not like a
it,
big
it's a,
Sundance film festival or anything like that, obviously, but that's part of the quality of a smaller film festival is that you get to connect with people.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, like I said, we'd love to be submitting something for the next festival. We hope that other people are submitting films. There's nothing quite like going to a film festival and seeing stuff that really grabs you. Um, and seeing the quality that other people are coming up with to inspire you to make something even better again next year. And like I said, like making those connections with other filmmakers from Toronto and from Germany and from San Diego. It's an amazing opportunity, an amazing experience.
Yeah, and what comes to mind too is that because I love social media as well, and I love meeting people in person, and I'm very social in every way in that sense. And one of the cool things is like a lot of you connected um, online later. You were sharing Facebook and whatever, and I was thinking about a lot of people who like to go out. We were talking before about people sharing the food they ate. That experience it's not hyped up. It really is something, if you want content to share on social media, try sharing something like that, right? A film
Yeah,
festival where you're part of it and connecting with people. I mean, God, I don't even know. I never counted, but there are so many pictures on Facebook from our film festival. There's so many there, and a lot of those photos that I've seen, just sort of random photos, are of you guys talking to each other, and everybody's smiling. I loved it.
yeah. No, it's an amazing experience, and like I said, I'm really hoping that we can get there again.
Yeah. Well, okay. So thank you so much. I don't want to keep you. It's late here at night, but it's you still got a day to go there. Um, so I really appreciate you being a part of our podcast, and I'll definitely actually, send me some of the names of the people that you gave a shout out to and that you talked about, so I can include them in the notes for the podcast.
Certainly will. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Take care, and well, how do you say farewell in Australian?
Um, I think it's just like see ya.
See ya.
Yeah,
All
see you
right.
around.
See you
That'll do
around then.
it.
Thanks a
Thanks so
lot,
much.
Brian. Thanks to Brian Hennings for a truly insightful interview. Gotta love it when a guest shares insights like this about the reasons for making films, no matter what camera you use. We hope you're inspired to share your stories through film using the camera in your smartphone. Speaking of sharing stories, you can submit your films to the International Mobile Film Festival by going to our website, www.internationalmobilefilmfestival.com. We hope you can make it to our film festival in April, even if you don't make a movie, and then meet some really awesome people, learn a bit, and be a part of the mobile filmmaking community. The red carpet is in your pocket.